Hi, I'm Lauren Kemp.
And I'm Bridget Price.
And this is Entrepreneurs in Progress. So we're back with another short. Today, Bridget and I are just going to talk to you a bit about our businesses and our roles within the business. I realize we have talked a lot about Made Easy and Rhodev, but we never really actually explain that much about them. So
yeah,
let's get started. Bridget, can you tell us the bit of the background with Made Easy and your role and Marcus's role within your company?
Yeah. So Made Easy is about to turn 4 years old in October 2017, which is crazy. But before Made Easy, there was another residential cleaning company that Marcus thought of, and the name was terrible. It was called Maid's Lane, and he launched it in 2016, summer 2016. And quickly pivoted because he got this blueprint around the cleaning industry and starting a residential cleaning company. But Marcus being Marcus, and I say this in a good way, Marcus is very smart. He's aware of how smart he is. And instead of following this blueprint as it was suggested to be followed, he kind of was making his own decisions around certain aspects around the business and how he wanted to carry it out. The launch didn't go as well as he had planned. So he put the brakes on it, continued to focus on his work full time. And then a year or so later, he decided to revisit this residential cleaning company because he had joined these groups on Facebook. And he noticed that people who launched around the original time that he launched the first cleaning business, like where they came or how far they came within a year. And he was like, holy crap, I'm going to go back and start this over again and actually follow everything to the T and be an actual pupil. And that was, I think, the big difference. After Maid's Lane, I had no idea that Marcus had planned to come back into this residential cleaning space. And I was caught off guard 100%. I've talked about this in our other episodes, but I was nervous and scared because I had focused on my college consulting business pretty much full time at this point. And I felt like, hey, like we've done a lot of your business ideas. Like I want to do something for me, like now you're pulling away my time essentially so I can help you with Made Easy. And of course, he never wanted my help with Made Easy. He wanted to do it all on his own, but we talked about this. It's just hard to do it by yourself. And when you have a capable and willing significant other, a partner, it's easy to lean on them for support than asking someone else to partner with you or help you in that way. So I was not fully bought into Made Easy because I saw the struggle at Maid's Lane. And this is an outsider looking in, essentially. Like, I didn't have all the information that Marcus had about this blueprint, about this guy who basically took a tried and true business and blew it up to where he was helping others do the same. And so I just couldn't really grasp that whole idea either. But of course, because I'm a down-ass bitch, I was going to help him regardless. And that's really what happened. And before I knew it, we both were operating a residential cleaning company in Phoenix, Arizona with no cleaning experience or anything, I feel like any experience in that space. Like we have professional services experiences because of our jobs and stuff like that. But running a professional service was just, we had no idea. I trusted Marcus and his knowledge, and he brought me up to speed really quickly. And I still only had maybe 50% of the information. I didn't have everything. Sad to say, I still don't have it all today.
How did Marcus get the blueprint?
So there's this guy named Rohan Gilks, and he created a whole Reddit forum like 10 years ago about being an unhappy accountant in DC and just deciding to go into a business that he felt was evergreen, which was cleaning, and basically modernizing it and bringing it to the 21st century and making lots of money off of it. He decided to stay away from the sexy businesses. And what he did with the cleaning business essentially was he stripped away the in-home estimates. He empowered the customer to book online. He changed this idea of what it meant to have a cleaning service as part of your everyday routine or regular life. And so for a lot of people in this industry, people who own cleaning companies, they are actually doing the cleaning. They pick up a number of customers, they get regulars through word of mouth or neighborhood ads or direct marketing or that type of thing. And they maybe bring on a few other cleaners umbrella, and that's their business. Very archaic in a way. And this guy just wrote the formula to operating a professional service-based business. And his biggest thing was to get it launched in 27 days or less, because he felt a lot of entrepreneurs struggled to get to that launch pad. They were harping over a name, going crazy over a logo design, trying to perfect a website. So his thing was, you can have a tested and proved business like a cleaning company ready from start to finish in 27 days. And that's where Marcus got the motivation, because there are so many success stories of those who were making 6 figures a year, close to 7 figures. And no one ever thinks about a cleaning business making over $1 million a year. Like, I don't know why we just don't. And we think about maybe like those franchised businesses, right? Like the Molly Maids or Mary Maids, but you don't think that the everyday person can have $1 million cleaning business, but he proved that to be the case. So his cleaning business, he still actually operates. He does not handle it at all full time. He still has his original cleaning business that he started in DC, and it makes over $3 million a year.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's how Made Easy came to be. And in the beginning, of course, as Lauren and I have discussed, I did everything, right? So I was answering the phones, I was helping with the hiring, I was helping with all of these things, wearing all these different hats. Now, what I do primarily is I oversee operations. So I manage our cleaning teams, I manage our admin staff, I refine and tweak processes to make our flow better, to make our systems better. And I also pretty much am in charge of any like new business development. So any potential large contracts that we go after, work primarily with that. So that's essentially my role. I'm very much in the weeds of the business, being in the operations side, where Marcus is more overseeing like strategy and business growth in terms of where we want to go next and what markets we want to hit. So
nice.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit, Lauren, about Rhodev, how Rhodev came to be, background story with Rhodev, and then what you and Brian do respectively.
Sure. So it started back in 2018. At the time, I was just contracting with a social media agency, and Brian was working a full-time job doing sales, and he had gotten fired, I think, right after Thanksgiving in time for the holidays. So
yeah, a fun time to be let go from your job. The best.
Yeah. So we found ourselves with me just being a part-time contractor and him being unemployed. We were scrambling for a little bit there. And so Brian had tried a couple different things. He tried doing graphic design, freelance work. He was able to find like a kind of customer service / sales type of role at another like kind of local startup. But he was very determined not to go back to working a corporate job. We did talk about it a bit because, like I said, we were scrambling a little bit. And he actually did have an interview at Google and made it to the final round, flew out to Austin, and then didn't get the job. And that even solidified further. Like, he's like, I don't want to ever do this again. And I don't blame him, because job hunting sucks. And it really sucks to get to the final round and not get an offer, which has happened to me too. By happenstance, someone who I think he worked with during his Pardot days at Salesforce, I don't quite remember the capacity in which they worked together, but it was essentially someone who had their own Pardot consultancy, Salesforce partnership, had reached out to Brian and was like, hey, I'm looking for contractors. Would you be interested in doing this work? And because we didn't really have a lot of options, he was like, yeah, I'll do anything. I'll take anything. And so by this time I did get a full-time job at that agency. And so Brian was like, I'm going to do this contract work. And we ended up realizing you can make a lot of money doing software consulting. And it was something that Brian learned really quickly. Like, he worked really hard. And so this is now mid 2019. And he's already starting to think, oh, okay, like, what would it take for me to run my own consultancy and do freelance work? Because again, he doesn't want to work for somebody else. He wants to run his own business. So taking all that he learned and figuring out how can I do this myself? And found out you got to have 4, certifications to consultant level to become a Salesforce partner. And that's how you get to work with account executives. And he just, like I said, we've been working on our processes. Like he didn't even have like a ton of like structure. He's just like, okay, I know what I need to do. He got all that done. And by October of 2019, so this is like essentially a year later from being fired, he got all the necessary certifications, applied for the partnership with Salesforce, got it, started, reaching out to AEs and different people on LinkedIn, I think. And so that's when Rhodev got started. So it started out as him just contracting and then figuring out, hey, you know what? I want to do this on my own. And so that was October 2019. At the beginning of 2020, that's when I joined and left my full-time job at the social media agency to help him full-time with Rhodev. Because by then he was getting some traction. I was also just not doing well at my role. So I was like, I'm leaving. Like, this isn't working. We're gonna have to scramble again.
We're going to figure it out.
We'll figure it out. Yeah. Because, at the time, Brian was only making, I think we only made like a couple grand in January for the first month and a bit more in February, but it was super low. Like,
right.
Not enough to cover our expenses. And I was like, I'm joining. Like,
yeah. What do you need me to do? I'm here.
So I got my certifications. I learned, what Brian, taught me and stuff, and started writing down the processes and working on where I am today, which is operations, finance, HR, like all the kind of logistic admin type stuff around the business. So Brian can focus on sales and client services. So that's how Rhodev evolved. And it's one of those things where I feel like with entrepreneurs and businesses, it's usually like months in the making before it's like actually launched and you get your first client and things start rolling. Like, you don't realize, like,
when it's like Brian's situation was a contract situation, side hustle thing, like seeing where it goes. But yes, from that point, it's this slow evolution into a business, I think. And with the exception of some industries like restaurant businesses, boutique stores, things like that, like it is a slow buildup.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, so would you say that Rhodev has been around for 2 years or 1.5? Because technically Brian started it in October. I didn't really join until 2020. And there are some, entrepreneurs who don't count their businesses until they got their first sale or whatever different milestones. When do you think, like, you say Rhodev established, blah, blah, blah?
Yeah. So
what year?
This is a great question. It's funny. It depends on how you want to spend, maybe potentially like vanity metrics. So if you want to share that you made X amount of dollars in this short amount of time, you could say 1.5 years. Or if you want to add more credibility to your experience, you could say 2 years. I personally would lean towards the latter because you were doing the work prior to this business being established. And sometimes you don't even know what it is until you get through those initial stages and things like that. And I think it's unfair to discount that work prior to the business officially starting. I get the whole, this is my first dollar, my first sales, that type of thing. But I feel like with a lot of the businesses that Marks and I have done in the past, like we were doing that before we officially started the business.
Yeah, I guess because I realized that I've been saying, it's been like 1.5 years, because we didn't get our LLC until January of 2020. Yeah, there was 6 months of work before that and leading up and Brian doing all this stuff. But I was like, we didn't technically become a company until then. But I think you're right. It's it started at 2 years ago.
How many businesses have people started? They've gotten all the paperwork done because they have this idea and they don't do anything, right? For months on end. Do they really have a business? Not really. Because a business requires transaction. It requires some type of back and forth, not just having an LLC or EIN or something like that. Like there's more to it than just having those outwardly or externally facing type of, proof that you're actually operating a business.
I just thought that was interesting. Like when do you consider the start of your business?
2 years. It's been 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
And you guys are at 4 years.
Yeah. Crazy. It went by fast. And sometimes we're super hard on ourselves when we think about our numbers. We're like, man, we should be further along than this. What were we doing? But then I'm like, oh, we're working full time and had all kinds of other personal shit going on. So yeah, we're doing just okay. Got to remember that sometimes.
Yeah, we're on our way, and it's good to look back on previous years to see how far you have come. And although there is like a lot of work that you have done year over year, that will just compound. And
so I have a question for Salesforce and Pardot. So can you explain a little bit about Pardot in terms of how it works with Salesforce, or what that part of the business actually is?
Yeah, so Salesforce is actually the name of the company. Usually it's interchanged with their main software, which is Sales Cloud. So people use Sales Cloud and Salesforce interchangeably sometimes. And obviously I've done it too. Mm-hmm. Technically we're, Sales Cloud and Pardot consultants. Sales Cloud is their sales CRM to help your sales team manage your contacts and relationships and become more effective salespeople. Mm-hmm. Pardot is their marketing automation software, their B2B marketing automation software, because they do have a marketing cloud, which is for more B2C. So Pardot they bought and acquired, and that is their B2B marketing software, and it integrates with Sales Cloud, their main sales CRM.
Got it.
Did that make sense?
Yeah. So it's a marketing automation software specifically for B2B. Pardot was its own thing, and Salesforce came and acquired them a few years back. Okay. And Brian's experience at Salesforce and just sales generally made him this perfect person to do this consultant role, or contracted role. And then he decided to launch into this full time.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. What kind of clients have you guys worked with in terms of the marketing automation? What are they looking to do, or what are they trying to achieve?
It's mainly small businesses trying to get set up and started. It's any industry, really. We have financial services, wealth management, education, technology, software, construction. It's all over the place as far as industry, but they're all typically smaller businesses. And yeah, they're looking for help to get set up. So Salesforce sells the software, and then we train people and configure it and customize it for their business processes and needs.
Okay. And they are able to manage their contacts in this software, their marketing communications. Yep. So you guys help with the implementation and creating email marketing templates and things like that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. It's actually really poetic that you all service smaller businesses trying to figure it out.
Yeah, it's really fun I'm not client facing, but Brian really enjoys talking to these often it's like the owner or head of marketing or head of sales, and get to, learn from what other people are doing in other industries. And yeah.
At what point do small businesses or that you or Brian have come across, do they decide that they need to make this investment? Because we know that softwares like Pardot and Salesforce, they're not the least expensive option in terms of managing external marketing efforts. So what point do they decide I'm going to make this investment because I know it's the best thing to do for my company?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to ask Brian if he's noticed a pattern or a point where people make that decision. Usually when it's more expensive software products, I imagine it's because they have extra budget. They've exceeded what they expected, and they want to reinvest back in the business. And it's like, okay, what am I going to reinvest back in? And they've decided that software and, process is what they want to do.
Okay. And it sounds like in former episodes, you talked about this already, that you guys just in this process have found that there are other needs that fit under Rhodev, right? So offering unique product or additional product offerings and being able to grow the business in that way, which is so exciting. Yeah,
we're excited to, try some other ways to diversify the services and products that we offer, and they all connect and work together.
We love business opportunities within the business.
Yeah. All the ideas, you can only focus on a few of them.
Yeah.
As long as they're all feeding each other, that kind of helps.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you feel like your role is going to shift at all or change in Rhodev, or are you sticking strictly with operations, finances, HR?
I think it depends on how we grow. If we grow, I have made it very clear to Brian, I do not want to be client facing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see myself going in that role. Ideally, I would love to be more of an HR role, but because it's a small business, got to take on more hats.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll see. And then also it depends on if I have any other business ideas or things that I want to pursue and leave Rhodev eventually. I think that's the eventual goal, maybe far out in the future. I still kind of view Rhodev as Brian's thing. It's our thing, but it's also his thing. Eventually want to do something on my own, but we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. Marcus had that conversation. We had a conversation a few weeks ago on one of our walks, and he said, if you weren't needed in Made Easy in the sense of like how much time you dedicate to operations and managing the teams and all of that, what would you be doing? What do you want to do? And I shared with him how I wanted to get one of my other ideas off the ground. That was inspired by our work with Made Easy. But I said, I would always feel like I need to be involved with Made Easy to some extent because we've grown it together and we've got it to this space where even though I wasn't 100% on board in the beginning, like I'm here now and I see how much we've grown and I just can't see myself completely stepping away from it. Whether that means I'm just focused on it 10 hours a week or something like that, very minimal. I don't see myself being fully removed. And he was like pleasantly surprised to hear that. And I said, it's just, this was your baby and it still is your baby, but I've adopted this baby and it's something I never saw us doing, but I've enjoyed it and I'm learning to enjoy the journey even more so now than I did at the beginning. I was so resistant, but now that I've leaned into it, it's a lot more easy to manage. Just not my expectations, but just my approach to how I go about helping solve problems and how we plan to grow it. But I think it's super important that partners have that conversation about what they want to do in the business, how long they want to stay in the business, what they want to eventually do, because you could start planning for that versus being shocked or bewildered when someone decides to leave or move on.
Yeah. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens in the future when we revisit this in a couple years, where we are.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you everyone for listening to this short. Like, subscribe, share all the things. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and connect with either me or Bridget on LinkedIn. And yeah, thanks for listening.
Till next time.